They say that if you want to make God laugh, just share your plans. Last week I had a plan to be offline for 7 days, immersing myself in books and podcasts I've been meaning to read and listen to for a long time now. Little did I know then, a few good friends of mine were arrested in Belarus during recent protests against the authoritarian leader and president of Belarus, who has been in power for the last 26 years. People say that there's been more presidents and prime ministers of Israel coming from Belarus than presidents of Belarus. That was meant to me. It was meant to me meant to be a time of quiet reflection and preparation for the high holidays. But it turned into the time when I couldn't stop watching the news from Belarus and texting with my other friends and families. It seems very symbolic to me that these events coincided with the beginning of the Hebrew month of Elul, the last month of the Jewish year, and the final month prior to Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Today is the first day of the month of Elul, and tomorrow will be the second. This is a month in which we spiritually prepare for the high holidays, the season of reflection and repentance. Elul is traditionally a time of introspection, known in Hebrew as Cheshbon HaNefesh, literally means an accounting of the soul. This process is a preparation for Rosh Hashanah, when, according to our tradition, every person is called to account and judgment is issued for all of us. I'm going to show you a slide now. In his book, which is entitled "This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared," Alan Liu writes, "We spend most of our lives in this strange dance, pushing forward to get back home, tshuva. To get back home. Tshuva, repentance, is the central gesture of the high holiday season. It is a circular motion. If you are moving along the circumference of a circle, it might seem at first as if the starting point is getting further and further away, but actually it is also getting closer and closer. The calendar year is such a circle. On Rosh Hashanah, a new year begins, and every day is one day further from the starting point. But every day is also a return, a drawing closer to the completion of this cycle. This idea that when you go away from somewhere, you inevitably move close to something else, because we live in a circle, is not new and maybe even seems simplistic. But every year we begin this journey, and each year we find it relevant. When we go away from our transgressions, each year we realize that the only way forward is to face them, is to approach them and do our best to make our lives a bit better. This week's Torah portion, Shaftim, instructs the officers of the Jewish army to release from battle anyone who has built a home they have not yet inhabited, planted a vineyard they have not yet harvested, or got engaged but not yet married. The point being that those with unfinished business are a danger to themselves and others. At a time of year when we contemplate our lives, this serves as an invitation to consider what unfinished business all of us have. The month of Elul is a month of getting your life in order, preparing for the move to the new year, which will have new hopes, new beginnings, new promises, but also new unfinished businesses. Torah doesn't ascribe the month of Elul any particular role or significance. Rabbinic scholars of the past had to make what I call liturgical gymnastics to find references to the months of Elul in the Hebrew Bible. They say that Elul is not just a name of a month, but an acronym, and there are verses which hint to it. For example, the Song of Songs has a famous verse, Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. This verse, as indeed the entire book, Shir HaShirim, is a love song between two partners. And the Talmud later metaphorically ascribes this love to the love between God and the people of Israel. First letters of these words form the word Elul, the name of our Hebrew months. Therefore, rabbis connected the wisdom of Song of Songs with the month of Elul. They said that the deep meaning of the months is about restoring the balance between people and God, like any relationship should have balance, between people and their inner voice of conscience, between people and their ability to feel love, but also shame, compassion, but also guilt. All of these are important feelings, but only when they're balanced and come at the right time, they serve the right purpose. In the book of Esther, there is another phrase which Torah scholars connect to the months of Elul. Ish lerechu umatanot le'evyonim. It comes from the verse which says Jews were to observe Purim as days of feasting and joy, sending gifts to one another and gifts to the poor, or presents to the poor. This verse brings ethical dimension to the month of Elul, looking inwards and reflecting on our personal behavior inevitably leads to the outward looking at our society. Do I do enough for the poor and needy around me? Am I in denial about issues in my neighborhood, my borough, my city, my country, the world? Our tradition teaches that we need to start with ourselves, but we should not stop there. Acts of kindness, supporting one another, thinking about the most vulnerable is at the core of Judaism. And the month of Elul is a reminder about it. This year, as the month of Elul begins, regardless of all the circumstances and everything we had to go through over the past months, we begin our familiar journey and prepare ourselves for the new year, for the new beginnings, and for new hopes. The month of Elul is the final part of a year-long circular motion from the last time of reflection to this one. the time for us to make a step back and to look at ourselves from the outside, so that we can come back to ourselves at the end. This year, we make plans and prepare as usual, and so do many people around the world, regardless whether they're Jewish or not, whether they're in Belarus or not. But we still do make these plans, even though it will probably make God laugh.